Hey Bookends! Welcome to this week's 10-minute book review. I'm 10. So this week's book review is going to be a little different because it's not really just one book. It's kind of two. It's like a book and a prequel. So the book that I read, because two didn't read this one because it was kind of spare of the moment, but Eve of Eridu by Alanah Andrews. So, just to let you know, I did things kind of backwards. When I read it chronologically, not by publication date. So, Eve of Eridu came out first, which is the full novel, but I ended up reading The Harvest, which is a prequel to Eve of Eridu first, which I'm so happy I did because it made me really want to read this book. The Harvest is still free right now, I believe, on Kindle. So if you want to pick that up, you can. This book was $2.99 on Kindle. So the premise is we're all the way in the future. I think we're like 3 or 4 centuries away from where we are now. There was a Third World War and 96% of the human population was killed off due to that, radiation, and a virus that came due to the war and radiation. So Eridu is a land underneath ground, like, you know, all the way down. They said they built it towards the middle of the earth, but I'm sure it's not like really at the center of the earth, but and people live there in a, I don't want to say like a tunnel system because it's actually a full-blown city. How I kind of imagined it would be is like buildings the size of large-scale, large production buildings, like, you know, really huge factories, but then cut down into apartment buildings and communal living spaces, things like that, all connected via tunnels. So, in this world of Eridu, where the last surviving humans have been living for centuries, emotions are frowned upon. You're not to feel anything too strongly. So if you've read Delirium by Lauren Oliver, then you're probably familiar with this premise. But this does it a little bit differently. So in Delirium, emotion, I believe the emotion that no one wanted to feel was love, because they felt as though the opposite of love is hate, when the opposite of love is really apathy. But yeah, so in Delirium they felt the opposite of love was hate, and so to root out all hate, they removed all love by basically performing a lobotomy through the neck to remove the part of the brain that controls love. In this book, there is nothing surgically done aside from a device inserted into a person's wrist to monitor their emotions through their heart rate. So to kind of figure out how it would look like, see, I wear a smartwatch, right? So imagine if someone had a Apple Watch on their wrist that they could just never take off, and it turned blue if they were serene and peaceful and calm, and turned amber if they were like feeling stuff but not really feeling it deeply but just feeling stuff, and turned bright red if they were like angry or just, you know, feeling stuff heavy. So in The Harvest, which is the prequel, we meet Hannah, who is a, you know, let's not start with Hannah because she's lower down the wrong. Let's start with Eve. So we meet Eve and Luke. They're brother and sister, and that generally does not happen in a society because nobody gives birth naturally. Everyone is I don't want to say cloned, but they're artificially inseminated. So eggs and sperm are mixed to create children who are artificially incubated, and then once they hit a certain period in their infancy, they are given to a family. So Eve happens to have a brother. His name is Luke. He's older than her by a year, I believe. And they're both high on the leaderboard. Now, the leaderboard is basically, the higher up you are on it, the better in society your family is. So in order to get high up on the leaderboard, you have to be academically sound, physically sound, and most importantly, emotionally sound, which both her and her brother are. And the interesting thing is, because of their status on the leaderboard, their family has a nice apartment. So if you've ever seen the anime Kill la Kill, in that anime, the hierarchy of the family, like the family standing, no matter what profession the parents do, how they live is based upon how the children perform in high school. So that was an interesting thing in Kill la Kill, and I find it interesting in this book as well. So Eve and her brother, they're high up on the leaderboard, and so everyone believes that either her brother is going to become an overseer or an architect. An architect is just basically someone who designs the tests that everyone takes to be able to get, you know, to rank on the leaderboard. So everyone believes he's either going to be one or the other, either an overseer, which is in charge of everything, or an architect who basically helps to design the civilization through the tests that the children take. Eve really, she loves her brother, but she's not supposed to. Now, it's not like a nasty kind of love or anything like that. Like, it's nothing nasty. She loves her brother in the way that a sister would love her brother if she had those kind of feelings. And of course, she suppresses her feelings, he suppresses his feelings, even though they both care for each other. Hannah. Hannah is low on the leaderboard, like not at the very bottom, nowhere near the top. Hannah and Eve used to be best friends, but once Eve started progressing up the leaderboard and Hannah just wasn't making it, Eve had to stop associating with her, because a part of getting up higher on the leaderboard is making sure that you're socializing acceptably, which means if you're higher up on the pack, then you are to socialize with people who are also higher up on the pack, or the elites. So Hannah used to be her best friend, not anymore, but Hannah still cares for Eve, Eve not so much for Hannah. It kind of reads almost like Hannah had a crush on Luke, Eve's brother. So Luke would tutor her even after Eve told him to stop, because like Hannah's just a lost cause. He's never gonna make it. He continued to tutor her anyway, and you know, Eve was right, she wasn't gonna make it. But yeah, she's nice, she's sweet, but she's just not gonna make it. You know, well, I shouldn't say she's not gonna make it. She's always at that midpoint. Not quite good, not quite bad, I should say the best of the worst. I'll say it like that. Because she's nowhere near the top, and she's not in the middle, but she's the best out of the rejects. So, in the prequel, you basically meet these two characters, and you see what happens when Luke is cold. So what happens is, because he's so high up, everyone just knows, like I said, he's going to be something special. Everyone comes to an assembly, or the harvest, where you're told what you're going to be harvested for, you know, in society, what you're going to be used for in society. And there's only one elite from his class who gets chosen as a high position as overseer. I believe her name's Ida. So everyone's looking around like, where's Luke? Where's Luke? Where is he? He's not even harvested for one of the lower positions, like a teacher. As it turns out, Luke ended up getting cold, and we don't know why. And Eve doesn't take it so well. So she's been really good at being able to suppress her emotions. That's why she's at the top of the leaderboard. But once her brother is cold, she just dip and loses it, because she loves her brother so much. And that's not something that she's familiar with. So now we go into Eve of Eridu. Eve of Eridu. So now we go into the main book, which I ended up reading in like 5 hours. Like, it wasn't even a challenge. It was, you know, I wasn't doing a readathon or anything. It's just I couldn't put it down. So yes. So Eve is going to have her memory erased, so it's called a memrace, which is something that they usually do for parents. Oh, let me tell you about the parental structure, the family structure. Okay, so the gender of people is known, but it doesn't really matter. Like, you can have 2 male parents, 2 female parents, 1 male, 1 female, what have you, as long as there's a set of 2. And they're not called mom and dad, they're called prime and sec, or primary and secondary. Primary parental figure, secondary parental figure. And I was wondering, why not just say mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom? You know, why not give them some kind of familial tone? Later on, we find out that the children are incubated. And I thought, okay, well, still, you know, if it's my child and they use my eggs, my husband's sperm, it's still mine. We find out that the children aren't really biologically belonging to their parents. They call guardians. Really, they're the children of the founders. Everyone is. So the original 6 people who founded Eridu, their sperm and eggs were harvested. And so basically every member of Eridu is, you know, from that 6, directly from that 6. So basically a brother and sister could be partners, because they don't have husband and wife, they just say partners. So brother and sister could be partners, and basically could be raising their younger brother and sister without even knowing it. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't think people actually have sex. Maybe I skimmed past, I don't know, but I don't know that people actually have sex. I don't know. But anyway, yes, so when someone is called, whether by choice because they decide it's just time to go, or it's by you know, just being told you don't make the cut, you can't stay here, we don't have enough room for everybody, and you just ain't it. They are all put into something called the grid, where their consciousness is removed from their body, which they call their shell, and put into this middle ground. I'm gonna say digital middle ground. Eve doesn't know if it's really the person themselves or if it's just a facsimile of the person in digital form that has the memory print of the original person, so that it mimics the person everyone's missing. So we find out that Eve is suffering from grief and she's about to have her memory erased, and all of a sudden the procedure just stops. The woman who's about to do it on her, she just stops and says, "Oh, my equipment malfunctioned. Sorry." So Eve just has to, you know, live with these memories of her brother and feel these feelings that she can't find a place for within herself. So, moving now, in the actual book, there's no mention. Well, there's mention of Hannah, but Hannah doesn't get her own chapters. So in the prequel, Hannah had her own, you know, spacing, her own voice. In this, we only see Hannah through Eve. So Eve she redlines again. That's what's called when you feel an emotion so strongly it takes control of you. So she redlines again. Her family is losing their standing. They lose their apartment that they're in. They have to live in a place called the Multi, which, if you could just imagine, is a bunch of beds stacked up, but they're called sleeping pods. So it's a bunch of sleeping pods stacked up against the wall, and you have your own sleeping pod, but you have no privacy. You don't have your own bathroom, you don't have your own studying space. It's just, you go to the room, you get in your pod, you go to sleep. She meets a boy named Sam, who, to her great surprise, has no monitor on his wrist. And he's like, "Yeah, I just got here." She's like, "What? How did you just get here? Everybody on the surface is dead. Where did you come from? You're not on the leaderboard." And so her friends, I call them friends because they're not really her friends, and she knows it just as well as everybody else, that if she drops down, they'll drop her, which they did end up doing. So yeah, she searches him out on the leaderboard and she can't find him, and he keeps searching her out too. And she's like, "Why do you keep looking for me? You're not on the leaderboard. Something's wrong with you. Did the overseer send you to spy on me?" And he's cagey. He's cagey about it. Eventually he tells her, like, "Okay, listen. Bro, you listening? Okay. I'm from the grid." Yeah, he tells her he's from the grid and that he came back and scientists found a way to bring people back from the grid, and he's, you know, this isn't his real body, it's just a body that, you know, someone had recently vacated. And she's like, oh snap, Luke, I can go see Luke again. So she calls Luke and says, you know, calls him on the grid and it's like, hey Luke, guess what, you can go and come back to us. You can come back to us in a body. I just met a dude who said he just did it, so you can do it too. And her brother's like, oh, that's cool. Nice for him. I don't want to come back. I like it here. Here is nice. And so she's like hyper confused. And do you have something else that's interesting? In the prequel, Hannah calls Luke on the grid too, because you can call anybody you want who's on the grid. Anyone can call them. So she calls him too because she misses him because he used to tutor and stuff, so she sees him as a friend. And Hannah asks him, did it hurt to be put on the grid? And he's like, no, it didn't hurt. She's like, oh, because I heard it hurt. And he's smiling and everything, but then he gets really serious, like, who told you it hurt? She's like, does it matter? It's just a rumor. He's like, no, who told you it hurt? And she's like, okay, well, gotta go. My parental figures are coming, so I gotta go now. And he insists that she tells him who told her that it hurt, but of course she hangs up. Now, when Eve talks to Luke in the actual book itself, I don't know, he just seems a bit flighty. And that really wasn't how he was in person, so it leaves Eve to believe this isn't really my brother. This is just something that they made up. You know, just a program that they made to look and sound like him, but this isn't my brother. So I'm left confused with that too. Like, is the grid real? Or is it just like holograms programmed to behave in the way that the loved ones did? Questions. But yeah, like, okay, from reading the prequel, I was like, okay, there's something seedy going on here, and Luke knew about it and he got cold on purpose. Reading the second one, it's like, okay, Luke is just chilling out in the grid and none of this really has anything to do with him. Still a little confused. The book itself was great though. We usually start out with a star point and a grade, but I was just so excited because I just finished the book that I didn't even say any of that. Okay, so the star point for this, we usually go from a scale of 1 to 10. So I would give this book a solid, I'm gonna give it a 10. I'm gonna give it a 10. I was thinking about giving it an 8, but no, it's definitely a 10. The author may have left some loopholes or plot holes in it on purpose so that there could be a second book. And if there is a second book that explains the things that happened in the first book, then it'll make perfect sense. So at the moment, we're gonna give it a 10. And the prequel, The Harvest, that groups in with it too, because it's only like maybe what, I don't even know how many pages it is because I read it on Kindle, but it wasn't that long, so I'm gonna group them both in together as a 10. And as a rating, I would definitely rate this a PG. I wouldn't say a PG-13 because everyone is so tamed. Like, and when she goes ballistic, it's not like violent ballistic, it's just like emotionally ballistic. And cursing is very tamed. I think they only curse like twice, maybe 3 times, and she gets a penalty for the one time that they caught her. Because she's a really good girl. She doesn't curse, but she was just coming undone. The ending, you know, I don't know how to take the ending. Because they said, like, I'm not going to give you what happened with her and Sam. But I will say that it was basically implied that Sam was playing her out. And, you know, he was just doing stuff just to get at her. Not to, not because he in any way cared about her personally. But it's kind of hard to know who to trust in the book. Aside from Eve, but we only trust Eve because we're in her head. When we were reading the prequel, we didn't know who to trust then, because, you know, from Hannah's point of view, you can't trust Eve. From Eve's point of view, it's like, screw Hannah. So, yeah. Overall, it was a really good read. If it does become a sequel, or if it does become a duology or a trilogy, I'm hoping for a duology, but if it does become a trilogy or a duology, I hope that it doesn't let down like Delirium kind of let down towards the end. It was a good first book, good second book, third book made me angry with the ending. So I kind of swore off Lauren Oliver after that, because I didn't feel like, well, anyway. So I'm hoping that if it does first of all, I hope that there is a sequel, because I need a sequel of this in my life. As soon as I finish that, I needed book 2. But yeah, I'm hoping that there aren't any letdowns. Oh, good news. It's a YA with no magic. Science everywhere. Everywhere science. Science is just coming out of everything. I love it. So much science. And there are no love triangles, because nobody wants to love. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that if you're into YA, you'd enjoy it too. This is an indie author, so it's like, give an indie a chance, because, you know, a lot of people look for the publisher houses to provide them with good YA fiction, or I should say quality YA fiction. And a lot of publisher houses do have good YA fiction, but a lot of them also have a lot of the same, which is magic, 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 boo-boo, and love triangles. Love triangles as far as the eye can see, like nothing original. Eve of Eridu provided me with something original. So that has been our 10-minute book review. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to check in for our 10-minute check-ins that we do throughout the week as well. This will be the final week of the Blackathon, so we will be showcasing 3 books this week. And one of the reviews is going to be by author we're going to do 2 books by author T.C. Morgan. One of them is A Promise Kept. The other one is Nothing's Ever Promised. I was going to read Ghost at a Watchman, but I started reading it and it was just too deep for me to be able to speed read in a week. It had too much going on, so that's gonna have to be something I give full attention to. These books were something we were able to read, you know, rather quickly. So we're gonna be doing, once again, Nothing's Ever Promised and A Promise Kept, both by T.C. Morgan. And also we're going to do a separate video as a discussion piece for The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Once I have some strong opinions about this book, perhaps opinions that some people aren't gonna like, but it is a discussion, so we're going to discuss it. Once again, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day, and see you in our next video. Bye, bookends!